Something catastrophic is happening in Germany, and the silence is deafening. Volkswagen just announced it's closing three factories in Germany for the first time in its 87-year history, not moving production temporarily, not restructuring, permanently closing factories that have operated since before World War II. BASF, the world's largest chemical company and a cornerstone of German industry, is shuttering plants and moving production to China and the United States. Siemens is cutting 5,000 jobs. Bosch is eliminating thousands more. Tyson Steel, the company that literally built industrial Germany, is on the verge of bankruptcy. Germany's manufacturing output has fallen for 9 consecutive months. Industrial production is at levels not seen since the 2008 financial crisis. Business confidence is collapsing. Investment is fleeing. This isn't a recession. This is deindustrialization, the economic engine of Europe. The country that held the Eurozone together through multiple crises that funded European institutions, that provided the trade surplus and industrial capacity that made Europe matter globally, is breaking down, and almost nobody is talking about it. Not the mainstream media, not European politicians, not even most economic analysts. There's a conspiracy of silence around Germany's collapse, as if acknowledging it would make it more real, as if ignoring it will make it go away. It won't. What I'm about to show you is the most important economic story in Europe that isn't being told: the collapse of German industry, the death of the economic model that made Germany Europe's powerhouse, and the catastrophic implications for the entire continent. This is Europe's dark winter, and it's only beginning. Let me start with the numbers that should be screaming from every headline. German GDP contracted 0.3% in Q3 2025. That's the third consecutive quarter of contraction, a technical recession that's becoming a depression. But GDP numbers mask the severity because services are holding up while industry collapses. German industrial production fell 11.2% year over year in October 2025. That's not a typo. Double-digit decline, the worst since the 2009 crisis. Manufacturing capacity utilization has fallen to 78, meaning German factories are running at barely 3 or 4 of their potential, billions in capital sitting idle. Manufacturing orders, the indicator of future production, are down 14.7% year over year. The pipeline is empty. Exports, the traditional strength of German economy, fell 8.3% in the third quarter. For an export-dependent economy, this is catastrophic. Business confidence indices are at multi-decade lows. The IFO Business Climate Index, Germany's most watched indicator, has been declining for 18 consecutive months. These aren't minor cyclical fluctuations. This is structural collapse. Volkswagen's announcement crystallized what's happening. For 87 years, Volkswagen never closed a factory in Germany. Through 2 world wars, through reunification, through multiple recessions, never. Now they're closing 3 major plants, one in Osnabrück, one in Dresden, one in Kassel. Combined, these employ 15,000 workers directly and support another 50,000 jobs in supply chains. But it's not just closures. VW is planning to cut 35,000 jobs across Germany through 2030. That's nearly 1/4 of their German workforce. The reason VW can't compete: their electric vehicles cost 40% more to produce in Germany than competitors' EVs produced in China. Their combustion engine vehicles are losing market share to cheaper Asian imports. Energy costs in Germany are now 3 to 4 times higher than in the United States, and twice as high as in China. VW's German factories are economically unviable. This is happening at Germany's largest private employer. If VW can't survive in Germany, what does that say about German industrial competitiveness? The answer is obvious but unspoken. German industry is dying. BASF's crisis is even more telling. BASF is the world's largest chemical company. Chemicals are the foundation of industrial production: plastics, fertilizers, pharmaceuticals, materials. If you can't produce chemicals competitively, you can't produce anything competitively. BASF is permanently reducing production capacity at its massive Ludwiken site, the largest chemical complex in the world. Not temporarily, permanently. They're moving production to China, where energy costs are manageable and environmental regulations are less restrictive. The CEO was brutally honest. Germany is no longer competitive for energy-intensive production. We must go where we can produce economically. This is devastating. BASF employing 110,000 people globally, 35,000 in Germany. When they move production abroad, those jobs disappear forever. But worse is the signal it sends. If BASF, the crown jewel of German chemicals, can't compete in Germany, no chemical company can. The entire German chemical industry employs 470,000 people. It's worth $225 billion annually. It's the third largest chemical industry in the world, and it's becoming economically unviable in Germany. The energy crisis is the core of Germany's industrial collapse. Germany made a catastrophic strategic decision: phase out nuclear power while becoming dependent on Russian natural gas. Nuclear provided cheap, reliable, carbon-free energy. Germany shut down its last nuclear plants in 2023. Russian gas provided affordable fossil fuel energy. Russia-Germany gas trade ended with Ukraine war sanctions. The result: Germany has the highest electricity prices in Europe and among the highest in the industrialized world. Industrial electricity in Germany costs 0.25 per kilowatt. In the United States, it costs 0. In China, 0. Natural gas prices for industry are similarly divergent. German industry pays 3 to 4 times what American industry pays for energy-intensive industries: chemicals, steel, glass, cement, paper, aluminum. This cost differential is death. You can't compete globally when your energy costs are triple your competitors' costs. The math doesn't work. German industry either moves production abroad or dies. Most are choosing to move. The political response has been denial and delusion. German politicians spent decades preaching about renewable energy transition and climate leadership. They made energy policy a moral crusade. Now, German industry is collapsing because of that energy policy. Admitting the connection would mean admitting the entire green energy transition as Germany implemented it was economically catastrophic. Politicians can't admit this. It would destroy the climate policy consensus. It would vindicate critics who warned about premature nuclear shutdown and excessive Russian gas dependency. So they pretend it's not happening. Blame Russia. Blame China. Blame global economic conditions. Blame anything except their own policy failures. Chancellor Scholz's government keeps announcing industrial strategy initiatives that are transparently inadequate. $30 billion for green transition support, $50 billion for innovation funds. These numbers sound large, but are drop in the bucket compared to the cost disadvantages German industry faces. You can't subsidize your way out of structural uncompetitiveness. But acknowledging that would require rethinking the entire German economic model. Politicians prefer denial. The social consequences are starting to emerge. Germany's manufacturing sector employs 8 million people directly and another 12 million indirectly through services and supply chains. As manufacturing collapses, unemployment will rise dramatically. Current unemployment is 1% low by historical standards, but manufacturing job losses haven't fully hit yet. Projections suggest German unemployment could reach 8 to 10% by 2027 if current trends continue. But job losses are just the beginning. Manufacturing jobs are Germany's best-paying working-class jobs, union jobs with benefits, pensions, security. When these disappear, they're replaced by service sector jobs: lower pay, less security, fewer benefits. The German middle class, the social bedrock of post-war stability, is being hollowed out. Towns built around single factories are facing extinction. Osnabrück without VW, Salzgitter without steel production. These become economic dead zones. The social fabric tears. Political extremism rises. The far-right AfD party is gaining in regions hit hardest by industrial decline. This pattern is familiar from American Rust Belt and British industrial decline. Germany is experiencing the same deindustrialization dynamic. The difference: Germany was supposed to be different. Germany was supposed to have figured out how to maintain industrial competitiveness in a post-industrial world. That was always an illusion. The illusion is now shattering. The implications for Europe are catastrophic. Germany isn't just another European country. Germany is the European economy. German GDP represents 25% of Eurozone GDP. German industrial exports finance European trade surpluses. German budget surpluses funded European institutions. German economic strength backed the euro's credibility. When Germany collapses, Europe collapses. The Eurozone without German economic engine is fundamentally different. Italy, France, Spain, none can replace Germany's role. The euro's value depends on German economic strength. A Germany in permanent industrial decline means a structurally weaker euro. European financial stability depends on German fiscal strength. When Germany faces fiscal stress from industrial collapse and rising unemployment, who backstops the Eurozone? European political influence globally depends on German economic weight. A deindustrialized Germany has less leverage, less influence, less power. Germany's crisis is Europe's crisis, and Europe has no answer. Let me show you the ripple effects across European supply chains. German industry is the anchor of European manufacturing networks. German cars use Czech components, Polish parts, Italian design, French electronics. When German final assembly declines, the entire European supply chain suffers. Czech automotive parts manufacturers are seeing orders collapse. Polish factories supplying German industry are cutting shifts. Italian component producers are facing bankruptcy. The German industrial ecosystem employed millions across Central and Eastern Europe. Those jobs are disappearing. European economic integration, supposed to spread prosperity across the continent, is instead spreading German industrial collapse. The countries that bet most heavily on German supply chain integration are suffering most. Slovakia, Czech Republic, Hungary, Poland, all seeing manufacturing decline that mirrors Germany's crisis. This isn't what European integration was supposed to deliver. The competitive implications are stark. Germany is losing ground to China in every industrial sector that matters. Electric vehicles, Chinese EVs are cheaper, increasingly better quality. BYD, Gile, NIO are eating German market share globally. Chemicals. Chinese chemical production is now cost competitive with superior logistics. BASF is losing to Chinese competitors. Machinery. Chinese industrial machinery is approaching German quality at 60% of the price. German dominance is ending. Green technology, solar, wind, batteries, China leads in all. Germany lost the green industrial race despite decades of subsidies. This wasn't supposed to happen. Germany was supposed to maintain technological edge through engineering excellence, quality, innovation, but Chinese technology has caught up in most sectors and surpassed Germany in some. Meanwhile, China maintains massive cost advantages. The German model, high cost, high quality, only works if quality advantage is substantial. That advantage has eroded. Germany is becoming uncompetitive in the industries that made it an industrial power. The financial sector knows what's coming. German banks are sitting on massive exposure to German industry. Loans to automotive companies, chemical firms, steel producers, suppliers. As these companies fail or relocate, those loans become non-performing. Bank balance sheets deteriorate. Deutsche Bank, Germany's largest bank, is already fragile. German industrial collapse could trigger German banking crisis. Insurance companies holding German corporate bonds face similar problems. Industrial decline means corporate defaults mean insurance solvency questions. Pension funds invested in German industrial stocks face massive losses. German retirement security depends on German corporate performance. The financial transmission mechanisms turn industrial decline into financial crisis. This is how regional economic problems become systemic. Germany's industrial collapse will trigger German financial stress, which will cascade across Europe. The European Central Bank will face impossible choices: bail out German financial institutions or let them fail and trigger contagion. The political crisis is accelerating. The current coalition government, Social Democrats, Greens, Free Democrats, is disintegrating under pressure of economic failure. The Greens, who pushed hardest for nuclear phase-out and renewable transition, are facing voter backlash. Their support is collapsing in industrial regions. The Free Democrats, who represent business interests, are demanding policy reversal on energy. But reversing course means admitting failure. The Social Democrats are caught between their environmental commitments and working class voters losing jobs. The coalition is paralyzed. They can't agree on response to industrial crisis because agreeing would require some faction admitting their policies failed. Meanwhile, the opposition AFD far-right nationalists are gaining by opposing everything the current government represents. AFD polling is at record highs in industrial regions. They're promising to restore industrial jobs, reopen nuclear plants, end climate policies, restore German strength. Their economics are nonsense, but their message resonates with workers losing jobs and communities losing industries. Losing Germany faces the possibility that industrial collapse produces political radicalization. The historical precedent is ominous. The migration dimension compounds the crisis. Germany accepted over 1 million refugees since 2015. The integration plan assumed continued economic growth would create jobs for migrants. But as German industrial jobs disappear, there are fewer jobs for anyone, native or migrant. Competition for declining jobs creates social tension. Far-right parties exploit this, blaming migrants for economic problems. The reality is that industrial collapse would happen regardless of migration. Energy costs and Chinese competition don't care about immigration policy, but politically, migration becomes the scapegoat. This fuels far-right politics and social division. The combination economic collapse plus social tension plus political radicalization is Germany's nightmare scenario. Weimar echoes haunt German historical consciousness. Economic crisis producing political extremism, producing catastrophe. Germany seemed to have escaped that pattern. The post-war economic miracle, reunification success, European leadership. Now the pattern threatens to return. Industrial collapse, economic despair, political radicalization. The historical parallel is impossible to ignore. Let me be specific about the timeline of collapse. 2026 VW BASF Siemens factory closures fully implemented. 100,000 plus direct job losses. Unemployment rises to 7. 2027 supply chain bankruptcies cascade. Small and medium manufacturers dependent on large industrial anchors fail. Unemployment hits 9%. 2028 German banking sector stress becomes apparent. Non-performing loans rise. Government faces bank bailout decisions. Fiscal situation deteriorates. Political crisis peaks. Coalition government likely collapses. Early elections produce fragmented parliament, possibly AFD and government coalition for first time. 2030 German economy structurally transformed. Manufacturing reduced to 15% of GDP from 25% in 2020. Service economy dominates. Living standards adjusted downward. Germany no longer Europe's economic engine. This isn't prediction, it's trajectory extrapolation. Without major policy reversal, this is where current trends lead. The policy reversals needed are politically impossible. To restore industrial competitiveness, Germany would need to reverse nuclear phase out, restart nuclear plants, or build new ones. Impossible given Green Party opposition and decades of anti-nuclear sentiment. Reduce environmental regulations, allow more industrial emissions, less strict rules, impossible given climate commitments and public opinion, cut labor costs, reduce wages, weaken unions, increase work hours, impossible given social model consensus and political constraints, abandon euro, devalue currency to restore export competitiveness, impossible given European integration commitments and German elite investment in Europe project. Massive state subsidies provide hundreds of billions to keep industry competitive, fiscally unsustainable, and violates EU competition rules. Every policy that might restore competitiveness is politically or institutionally impossible. Germany is trapped by its own policy choices, political culture, and institutional commitments. The only variable that can adjust is industrial production, and it is adjusting downward. The comparison to Britain is instructive. Britain deindustrialized in the 1980s, closed coal mines, steel mills, factories. Thatcher's government decided services and finance could replace manufacturing. The result? Regional devastation, social breakdown, political resentment that lasted decades and culminated in Brexit. Germany is following the same path 40 years later, but with worse starting conditions. Britain had North Sea oil. Germany has no such resource windfall. Britain had the City of London Financial Services. Frankfurt can't replace German manufacturing the way London replaced British manufacturing. Britain had English language advantage in global services. Germany has no equivalent. Britain de-industrialized when global competition was less intense. Germany faces Chinese competition at its peak. German deindustrialization will be worse than British deindustrialization. And Britain's was catastrophic for working communities. The social cost Germany will pay is immense. Let me show you why nobody's talking about this. Media narrative control. German media largely follows government line. Admitting industrial collapse contradicts official optimism. European solidarity. European media doesn't want to discuss Germany's problems because Germany's collapse threatens entire European project. Political incentives. Politicians across Europe invested in German strength narrative. Admitting it's false requires rethinking everything. Corporate PR. German corporations manage messaging carefully. Announce restructuring, not collapse. Frame decline as strategic repositioning. Complexity. Most people don't understand industrial economics, energy costs, capacity utilization, supply chains. These are abstract to general public. Hope people want to believe it's temporary. Surely Germany will figure it out. Surely it can't be that bad. The result, conspiracy of silence. Everyone with knowledge and influence has reasons to downplay or ignore the crisis, but reality doesn't care about narrative management. Factories are closing regardless. The winter of 2025-2026 will force confrontation with reality. High energy costs hit hardest in winter. German households and businesses face electricity and heating costs they can't afford. Industrial facilities shut down because it's cheaper to stop production than to pay energy bills. More factory closures will be announced. More bankruptcy filings, more layoffs, the political calendar forces reckoning. Regional elections in 2026 will be referendums on economic policy. If far-right AfD gains substantially, it shocks German political system into confronting what's happening. International financial markets will force acknowledgement. If German bond yields rise due to fiscal concerns or German stocks continue falling, global attention focuses on Germany's problems. The silence can't last forever. Reality has a way of forcing recognition. Winter is when things break. Infrastructure failures, heating crises, energy blackouts. Europe's dark winter will illuminate what everyone has been trying to ignore. Germany is collapsing. For Europeans, this means fundamental change. The Europe of the last 30 years was built on German economic strength. Stable euro backed by German surplus. European institutions funded by German contributions. European integration anchored by German industrial might. That Europe is ending. The Europe of the next 30 years will be economically weaker, politically fragmented, globally less relevant. Without Germany as economic engine, European integration may reverse. Countries will prioritize national interests over European solidarity. The euro without German backing is fundamentally different. Either Germany fiscally dominates despite economic weakness creating resentment, or the euro weakens substantially creating inflation and instability. European global influence depends on economic weight. A Europe with collapsing German industry has less leverage in trade, climate, technology, security domains. The world order is shifting. American relative decline, Chinese rise, European irrelevance. Germany's collapse accelerates European irrelevance. This is Europe's dark winter, not a temporary crisis that will pass. Structural transformation that will define the next generation. European economic model is failing. The industrial base that made Europe matter globally is disappearing, and almost nobody is talking about it. The conspiracy of silence serves political and institutional interests, but it doesn't serve the people who will live through the consequences. Workers losing jobs deserve honest reckoning with what's happening. Communities facing devastation deserve acknowledgement of reality. Instead, they get official optimism, bureaucratic announcements of transition support, and political denial. The winter will be dark. The silence makes it darker. Europe is collapsing with